It was farmers working with farmers. For many years I did all of my own repair work, my machine work, and that sort of thing, looked after my own tractors and combines. And I felt that in going to Nicaragua on a project like this, it was something that I could really get into.
Well, fixing machines is my main line. And they have a lot of old American machines down there that are in need of maintenance. And I figured they'd need somebody who could help them. And apparently the brigade was going down there to help them with their machines and this sort of thing, so I figured there'd be an in for me, and luckily there was.
I had to do what I could, whatever way. If no one else would help me, I guess I'd do whatever I could with my own two hands to try to bring about some change to the living standards of the Nicaraguans.
Forestburg, Alberta. In December 1984, a group of Western Canadian farm families met here for the final push of a unique fundraising drive.
I think we're going to do something that is going to make a lot of people envious of how some farmers that really don't know much about world politics.
Irving Bablitz is a grain farmer from Bruce, Alberta.
And help that little war-torn country put their economy back on the road to recovery.
Bablitz visited Nicaragua last year. He came home with a mission to organize a brigade of 16 farmers to work for 2 months in Nicaragua.
375, I'm bid 300, we're going to be 375, I'm bid. Now 400 down here, 4 in bid, 4 and a quarter, 4 and a half.
The farmers raised $180,000 for their work brigade from Oxfam Canada, CEDA, the Alberta government, and in donations from friends and relatives.
700, thank you, sir. He gets a kiss, that's the name of the game.
That's the most difficult part of this whole thing, raising the money and the application to the different levels of government. The total budget, if you take the materials that we bought with this money in turn, we turned it into $250,000.
We're going down to try to help the people improve their farming methods.
Art Bunny is a semi-retired Forestburg farmer.
It's just to help the people. We're trying to train some of the young people in maintaining and servicing their farm machinery, that kind of thing, teaching them to weld. And we're just going there as lay people to help them help themselves.
It took 3 days to fly the 8,000 kilometers from Edmonton to Managua. The farmers still had a 3-hour bus ride before them into the southern part of the country.
I think there were some in the group that really hadn't traveled, but I'm sure there was a lot of excitement, maybe a bit of fear.
Because of the news coverage, we thought that there would be a lot more military action than there was, and I expected to be having to show my passport every little ways at roadblocks and that sort of thing, and when it didn't happen, it was a real surprise to me.
It was my first time traveling in a third world country. Well, we're not used to seeing volcanoes in Alberta.
Finally, they arrived at the town of Rivas, about 35 kilometers north of the Costa Rican border. The Nicaraguan Farmers and Ranchers Union, called UNAG, hosted the Canadian Brigade.
We went there for a very specific purpose, and that was to do as much as we could to get agriculture going. And so we chose people that were able to repair and handle anything that they were confronted with. And so we had a machinist, someone that was learned in hydraulics, electronics, mechanics, welding.
Buenas tardes, compañeros.
And of course, old George, the fix-it man that could fix anything.
Local campesinos had offered to house the Canadians in groups of 3 or 4 at their co-op farms just outside town. Richmond Godfrey of Oxfam Canada worked as the brigade's translator and field coordinator.
Aquí está compañero Juan.
Compañero Juan.
Sí, él se llama Juan. ¿Usted es?
El nombre mío es Antonio Cajina.
Antonio.
Sí.
This is Antonio.
Antonio.
¿Y Pablo?
Pablo.
Antonio. Ella es compañera de uno de los socios.
I think you guys are doing your best co-op around here. Este es Arturo. Va a alojarse con usted. Eddie?
That was a tender moment, I guess, for me, because they were just so friendly and so nice that I felt quite comfortable there, really. Very poor, of course, which was not unexpected to me.
They're existing. They seem to be cleanly dressed. They're not, you know, they're just as healthy looking as we are. That's their life. We can't change it. We live at home. They live up here. We like it there. They like it here. This is their country, their homeland.
George Pawluk, a Ukrainian immigrant from Kuroki, Saskatchewan, speaks 7 languages, but only a few words of Spanish.
Yo llamo George. Yo soy de Canadá.
Hey.
Yeah.
Pío Lugo.
Pío Lugo. Compañero. Compañero mito.
When we first moved into there, and they said, this is where you're going to stay, and we went looking around, and holy smokes, are we going to stay here? It didn't seem like the sort of a place you'd put somebody up in. And the kitchen was not anything up to what we thought it should be, even for those conditions. It makes you wonder that we're living here in our society of excess, and they're living there in their poverty. It's enlightening. It sure opens your eyes.
Water?
Agua. There's no it's water, it's agua.
When you're with a family that's being so generous with you, and you sit there all evening and talk, and you both speak different languages, I think you communicate probably in a more personal and meaningful way when you don't understand the people, and really you do a pretty good job of it. It's a lot of fun.
We didn't get up until 4:30 or 4:45. I walked 2.5 miles to work. The other 2 people rode bicycles. And we'd get to work about 7 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
On the outskirts of Rivas, the Nicaraguan Ministry of Agriculture had a supply depot and storage yard. The Canadian farmers were asked to build a machine shop here, to repair farm equipment, and to teach young Nicaraguans how to do it themselves. Twice a week, the Canadians start the day with a bull session to deal with a host of problems they face working in the Third World.
Laundry, the lady who does the cooking at the UNAG offices, she asked to please have the chance to wash your clothes. I said, well, only if you let us pay. And she said, oh no, I want to wash it to make you feel good here. And I said, it'll make us feel good if you let us pay you a little bit in advance, eh?
Okay.
I wondered if, this suggestion, if each of us made a list of the things we can handle competently or are familiar with, and give it to the foreman, and then he would know who to pick on when he needs
There were problems, but I didn't realize that we'd have such a difficult time getting sheet metal and angle iron, simple little things like that, and that was really frustrating.
We're talking to UNAG, one of the 2, because UNAG can get us a couple of cooperatives, 20 people just like that.
It was a real problem to find a truck that would run. Then you had to take people with shovels and go down to the river and load the gravel up. And people from Canada, we like to do things right now when we do them. That was quite a shock to every one of us, and frustrating.
Yes, we're now about to visit the machine shop here at the sugar
refinery and
Art Bunny used his video camera to keep a diary of the farmer's trip.
help repair machinery in this shop before we get the other shop completed. I think that if we spread our crew out and part of us work here and part of us work on the building, why we'll accomplish more in a few days than we would if we all tried to be in each other's way over there working at the shop.
Working with the Tools for Peace campaign, the brigade brought over 15 tons of equipment from Canada. Tractor parts, welding and power tools, a metal lathe, machetes and forage choppers to leave here with the farmers in Rivas. Grant Bablitz, a welder by trade, talked to local farmers about repairs the Canadians could make to their broken down farm equipment. He found much of the disabled machinery could not be moved to Rivas. The solution was to build a portable shop and bring their tools into the countryside. At the Rivas sugar refinery, a potential target for enemy attacks, the Canadians searched for parts to build a trailer for their portable shop.
He's offering us these trailers. We can more or less take our pick of what's here for our mobile unit.
They're much too heavy.
They're pretty big, aren't they? That lighter little one back in there is more like what we need. Yeah, even that's a little big. Eh?
So is this a silage pit or a bomb shelter?
It's an air raid shelter. Yeah.
Just a very modest trailer, a toolbox with all the necessary tools, a mobile welder, side grinders, air compressor, so they could go out to wherever something needed repairing and the tools would be with it. But it's something that would be there. We built it.
Compañero, compañero, organízate primero. Con nosotros el ATC y tu vanguardia campesina. Pronto ya no habrá patrones, pronto ya no habrá patrones que gocen de tu trabajo.
The first house call was to one of the local co-ops.
Porque tu departamento, porque tu departamento te exige tu ciudad.
We took equipment to machine things and to lathe things and to innovate and build parts that wouldn't be there.
Mira, qué bueno.
Sombrero. No tengo. No tengo. Ay, pobrecito. No. Pero
no solearse, no solearse. ¿Ah?
Having helped them a little bit and encourage them with our presence, telling them that we're in support of you. Keep your spirit up, because there are people in the world that do care and that want them to succeed in their revolution.
Word got out that the Canadian Farmers Repair Shop was in business, and farmers started bringing in their tractors.
There we go.
There's no chance to get tractors fixed here in Rivas.
No hay repuesto, estamos bastante fregados en ese asunto.
Oscar Silvados, a private farmer, was the first to bring his tractor to the Canadians.
There's no parts around
De
here.
parte del pueblo, pues, de Canadá. Es lo que nosotros lo han dicho, pues.
That's why we're very thankful for you guys to come here, and help us.
The amount of use these tractors get is just incredible. Because these tractors are usually shared by a lot of people, and they just go non-stop all the time.
Don Chesney, a heavy equipment mechanic from Calgary, fixed Silvados' vintage Ford tractor.
Mainly the problems around here are just little things, components, not the major stuff. Basic maintenance, yeah. Most of these people really, they've never owned bicycles when they were kids. They never had go-karts or Hondas or anything like that. So they don't have a lot of expertise, although doggone, they learn fast. You know, they're not stupid.
6 Nicaraguans were given time off from farm work to be trained by John Iverson in basic cutting and welding skill.
People would come and then they'd have to go back to their harvests, and then they'd come again. But they were just amazed at how quickly these kids would pick up and become accomplished welders.
It seemed like after you adapt to your conditions, it didn't seem like such a hardship. As far as keeping our room clean, we found out why it got so dirty so quick. It was just the dry, dusty conditions. It just laid films of dust down every day. We had to clean every day, and you can see that if anything is left alone for a week or two, it's just covered in dirt.
Actually, the thing that's been bothering me is just how well we have been fitting in. It doesn't bother us at all in the morning now when the pig walks out of the kitchen and you scratch behind its ears and the chickens run between your legs and your plate of beans and rice gets put before you. It doesn't seem to have any effect anymore. So,
So you don't feel uncomfortable?
we may be hard to get along with when we get home.
Spare parts for farm equipment are so scarce and expensive here that many farmers have gone back to plowing with oxen.
I think farmers have always wondered what it would be like to go back to when our grandfathers opened the land, and so it gave us an opportunity to, for a couple of seconds, just to get the feel of what it'd be like to be up there with an ox.
Sorgo blanco también, trigo blanco.
There's also white sorghum. This one is called red sorghum.
Then, of course, there was a shortage, gasoline and diesel fuel. Oil is very expensive. They use oil there for all of their generation of power. And the American Navy was doing war maneuvers out in front of the port, and they were stopping the tankers that were coming in with oil. I suppose the prices surprised me more than anything else. It seemed like anything that came in from America was almost prohibitive.
I think we'll just go over and buy one of those little watch guys.
Light bulbs, for instance, cost $10 a bulb. An oil filter for our Jeep, they wanted $112 in Canadian dollars for it.
Nothing is available, you know, nothing except local goods. You can buy food.
Now we're going to buy a tomato or something like that.
But anything else, forget it. And it's, of course, it's because of the black market and their currency. They can't afford anything. I could practically see the economy going downhill while I was there. Everybody was getting poorer and poorer all the time. It seemed like it, nothing was running. It's a sad situation.
In 1979, Nicaragua's revolutionary leaders, the Sandinistas, led the people in an overthrow of the dictator, Somoza.
After you were there for a while and you saw the emotions of the Nicaraguan people and the numbers, I mean, it was just an ocean of people. You got caught up into it, and the pride that they had accomplished so much.
Today in Managua, Nicaraguans are inaugurating their newly elected president, Daniel Ortega. Despite the celebrations, Nicaraguans are suffering. The U.S. government has launched an undeclared war against Nicaragua, funding counter-revolutionary guerrillas called Contras and squeezing the economy with boycotts and blockades. 40% of Nicaragua's annual budget is devoted to defense. 18-year-olds are drafted into the military, and people of all ages serve in the militia. 3 weeks before leaving Nicaragua, the Canadian farmers took a trip into the northern part of the country, the war zone. Here, Nicaraguans have to defend themselves from raids by the American-funded guerrillas based in Honduras.
This is one of the cooperatives that was fired by the Congress and completely destroyed. You can see where it's
Art Bunny recorded the nightmare of war in his video diary.
You see the coffee pickers along with the military. This is a young soldier. You see them of all ages. This young fella can't be more than about 15 or 16. But you see him packing his weapon. There could be an attack at any time, and so they're always prepared. We are now in a little town in the war zone, and here the families have gathered around the soldiers that were killed last night in a battle here. 7 people were killed. We have the bodies of 3 of the people here. This is the mother of the soldier that was killed last night. His body lying in the coffin. Friends and relatives have gathered around. You see the real reality of war here. The sadness and the sorrow that's brought about because of the aggression of the American-backed troops. It was a very moving time, something that I'll remember with sadness as long as I live, something that I wish every American mother could see. I think that if they knew the anguish and the pain and the love that these people have, they only want peace.
But living in peace here is only a dream. The U.S. has dramatically increased funding to the Contras and imposed a full economic embargo. Farm families can't even get parts to fix their windmills.
I repaired 2 water pumps, 2 big windmills out in the farm. The first one that I repaired was broke down for a year, and they had plumbing all throughout the yard. Nothing worked.
When George fixed their windmill, the women at the co-op could water their garden again.
To see that the people are so poor, and yet they're so happy with what little they have. You know, not like us Canadians. We want 2, 3 cars, we want everything. These people are satisfied with the idea of living free.
I don't evaluate things maybe this way some people do, and just material things that's visible. You know, we put this here, or something, and there it is. I don't value. I think value is our friendship to the people and their friendship to us, and we may have helped the Nicaraguans a lot in the things we brought down, and we taught them some things, I guess. But I think, to me, it's just being here and being part of the country and then taking that back.
The government here is definitely for the poor people, and I think that's really unique in this world today. And when you talk to the peasants and you see the pride that they speak about their government, I don't think that we could help another country through the government and see the aid go directly to the poorest people like we can in this country.
The last day in Rivas, the Canadians hold a ceremony
I present the efforts of the Canadians
to turn over their repair shop to the Nicaraguans.
Los esfuerzos nuestros. The things that are evident, the things that will come at a later date.
Lo que ya se puede ver y lo que se verá en el futuro.
And our pledge that in the future we will help as we have done this time. And you take care of it. Okay?
¿Y qué lo cuida?
Yo creo que ya le expresaron.
It was gratifying for us to realize that we had a national presence in the country. We had TV coverage and newspaper coverage at least once a week that the Canadienses in Rivas were down there working. And it had to be something that bolstered the entire nation, the confidence for them to continue with their revolution, to realize that there are people in the world who cared and that were willing to and wanted to help them and wanted to see them succeed. And it gave me a good feeling to know that we were representing our country.
About the ways that we can work in the future to do something about our problems. We hope you don't forget us. We hope you remember that we can work together well. We hope you remember that we need your help.
We made some good friends on our co-op. And as far as language goes, it's amazing what you can get across when both sides are willing to communicate. The language doesn't become a problem. I'd like to return. I'd like to return and see these people I made friends with. And I'd like to go back and see how the country has progressed in a few years and hopefully be able to see some progress.
Adiós, pues. Te vas pues a Nicaragua.
Sí. Yo regresar.
El día que yo me muera, que no haya tanto lamento, sino canto alegre y cierto del cantor que no está muerto. Quiero el canto de los niños y su risa en la ciudad.
I don't know. I guess I fell in love with the people down there. And I think that the moral support that you give them is probably just as important as the other support that you give them. When I left, the people cried. They said, "We won't see you again." And I said, "Oh yes, I'll be back." And so I have a promise to keep.
Quiero el canto de los niños y su risa en la ciudad, que invadan los corazones con alegría y felicidad. El día que yo me muera, que no me echen mucha tierra para salir por las noches a cantar con las estrellas, cantar suave pero firme por la patria y por mi amor, por los que tal vez mi vida se haya perdido con fe y valor.